Hello everybody, welcome to What Culture Gaming. I'm Scott and I'm joined by Rich.
Hello.
And we've played Gigantic, which you might know at this point because it seems like it's actually kind of taken off a little bit.
It has,
The game
yes.
is gorgeous.
It is absolutely beautiful.
From top to bottom, it sort of looks like a little bit of like an Overwatch type of thing, but the actual meat of gameplay is way more MOBA influence,
yes,
as we've kind of found out. So we kind of thought we'd break down what Gigantic is, because especially if this thing starts to take off, a whole lot of people are going to start to play it. So basically, what is Gigantic? How have you found it?
I have found it a lot better than I was initially expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I thought it was going to be bad, but because it takes a lot. Essentially, the meat of the game is very MOBA based. And I've never been a fan of MOBAs. I've tried them and I've hated them. So going into this, I was very keen to go into this because it is a middle ground between a shooter and a MOBA.
Yeah.
So I figured, yeah, why not? Let's give it a go. And I came out of it so excited.
So just to break down exactly kind of what it is MOBA influence. You do have like points on the battlefield that you're trying to claim and you're up against another enemy team, and it's kind of all about like, you know, territorial domination. But both teams have a giant guardian, which is like a big beast behind them. It's either a griffin or like a big snake dragon thing.
Yeah.
And every now and then you're going to want to like build up power, which you do by taking out other enemy players or by dominating the battlefield with different nodes. And once you reach a certain power level, your guardian will fly across the screen and take out the enemy's guardian, or pin them down rather.
Pins them down, it exposes their weak spot, and you have to barrage a load of fire towards that. They essentially, each guardian has 3 lives.
It's like 3 points ostensibly.
3 points, and once you've taken out all 3 points on the foe's guardian, then you win.
You win,
Simple
which sounds very simple, but the whole game starts to kind of, it all filters back towards that premise. But the roster is incredibly varied. The different tactics you can employ are extremely varied. You have lots of different status buffs and approaches to combat. There's like shooting, there's melee, there's mages, there's a whole load of stuff. So basically, we're kind of going to just break that stuff down because later in the week, we're going to be doing a tips video to get the most out of Gigantic.
Yeah.
But in terms of just answering the question, what the hell is this thing? It's a game that's been in development for a good couple of years, and it seems like Motiga, the developers, have really got something special.
They do have something special.
So
I think this is going to take off. It's going to be great.
I hope so. Because the roster itself is incredibly varied. I ended up gravitating towards a shooter character called Beckett, who was like this twin pistol person.
Yeah.
And I think you played as like a robot.
I played as a robot called HK206.
Which isn't at all Bastion.
It's not,
but
Bastion.
He is a little bit. He's sort of their little one.
A little bit Bastion.
In a good way.
But they're both, as you know, both shooter characters. So because we obviously neither of us played MOBAs, so taking a shooter character was probably the best way for us to get our head around the sort of the core mechanics, the point of the game. Because you can jump in as like a mage or you can jump in as a melee character, but because you can make the game itself feel more like a third-person shooter than a MOBA.
That's the thing.
Depending on who you play as.
Yeah, so all characters control. You have 4 different abilities on the different shoulder buttons, and eventually you'll build up like an ultimate, which comes from like a focus meter, which every character has like a one-off big ability.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're basically, if you're going to be melee focused, you're kind of just holding buttons and like going into like attack stances. It's very like, I don't know, Final Fantasy 15, Final Fantasy 12-ish.
It's just general sort of beat 'em up.
Yeah, it's like sort of like MOBA kind of combat or like MMO type combat. But for me, the thing that really got me into it was just treating it like a shooter and kind of like layering the tactics on over the top. So I played as Beckett, and her thing was just either laying down fire with the twin pistols, or you could switch to a grenade launcher. She also could throw grenades, and she had like an aerial jump, which could be upgraded to do like jetpack, different like aerial maneuvers.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my window into it, and what made me kind of go like, okay, I get how to play this, but then there's all this wider level of tactical sort of like approaches to it.
Essentially, like calling it a MOBA in any way is completely wrong.
Oh, it's completely wrong.
Well, it's not completely wrong, but it's not a MOBA.
There's nodes and stuff.
I mean,
there's nodes.
Sort of, the core mechanic and the basic, the sort of the point of every mission is every game is essentially very MOBA based, but the game itself isn't what would really be considered to be a MOBA. It's more like an arena shooter with a sort of a MOBA point to it.
Because we don't have a name for whatever the genre is that Overwatch started, maybe we do.
According to Motiga, the game is a free-to-play strategic hero shooter.
It rolls off the tongue. So, whatever that is.
It's sort of its own niche. It sits somewhere between an actual MOBA, so say something like Dota or League, and Overwatch. It sits in the middle of that. Yeah,
because ever since Overwatch came out, we've obviously seen Battleborn and we've seen Paladins, and then on the MOBA side of things, on PS4 at least, you've got, I think Xbox One as well, you've got Paragon and Smite. But in terms of MOBAs on console, it's a very fertile kind of ground. It's a really incredibly popular genre on PC and Steam, but consoles haven't really got into that at all.
No.
And I think that's partly down to how off-putting the amount of mechanics and HUD elements and just the general look of those games are.
Yeah, I mean, the point of like a proper MOBA is the fact you can't play with a controller. You just can't.
And so
this is this works with both. You can play it with a keyboard and mouse, because I did. I played it on PC, you played it on Xbox One.
Yes.
So you used a controller, I used a keyboard and mouse, but they are fundamentally the same thing. It's just like playing any other game with a keyboard and mouse or a controller.
And so the way that like Gigantic kind of gets you in, or the way that I think it does something, because I bounced right off Paragon and Smite, is just that you can play it like a third-person shooter if you want to. Obviously, the other roster abilities like melee and stuff mean that you're going to wade in way more. But this kind of factors in, like I said, to the wider tactile side of it, where you have like a 2-tier ability unlock system for each character. So as matches go on, matches tend to be like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 minutes
I played about half an hour.
Yeah, well,
night, so.
Sometimes they can go on. There are a few more mechanics we can get into in terms of how the Guardians operate. But basically you're playing characters that are sort of leveling up and getting stronger across the game, which means that the more you get confident with the tactics and the more you start working as a team, the more you yourself are also getting stronger, which means that the longer the matches go on, the more abilities are popping off, the more status effects there are, the more it gets way more intense, and the more like HUD elements there are to keep track of. But it works. It's not overwhelming.
You get sort of a slow ramp in. You're not sort of thrown straight in the deep end, and you sit there going, I don't know what I'm doing. That's what I got with actual MOBAs. But this leads you in quite well. There's a proper tutorial and everything. Play that. Do it, but you'll really get your head around everything once you actually get into the games.
Yes, and one of the coolest things is that it's actually free to play. It's only on Xbox One and PC for the minute. I don't know of any future platforms that they might be planning. If it takes off, hopefully you'll be able to see it on PS4. But that does mean that you can just sort of grab a bunch of friends and be like, come play this thing and we'll see what it's like. Because the game does rely very heavily on teamwork. And it was only very recently that they patched in voice chat itself. On consoles, most people don't tend to talk to each other anymore. It's not the halcyon days of 2006. So we're kind of relying on text chat, which is just sort of like attack this point, defend this, kill this, do whatever.
Sort of quick chat kind of thing. With your directional buttons or something.
But to delve a little bit back into the mechanics of battle, the Guardians themselves, like I said, you want to power them up. You want to trigger your Guardian to attack the enemy's Guardian so you can get one of the 3 points off. But in that state, you get like a 20-second-ish window where you get told like, oh, hey, your Guardian's going to be charging. And in that 20-second window, the defending team can still build up a shield for their Guardian, the one that's about to be attacked, by taking out you, like whoever the attacking team are. And that means that when that animation happens, which is a really lush, really powerful...
It's incredible. It's like so beautiful.
It's like Shadow of the Colossus, like 2 massive creatures just going at it. I really like that stuff. Anyway, so they can build up a defensive buff by taking out the enemy team, the approaching team, during that 20-second window, which means that their Guardian might survive and prolong the match. And it's that sort of push and pull and building up to like, the offensive wave, the defensive wave. That's the meat of Gigantic, and that's the kind of stuff that is like really, really cool. Because
after a short amount of time, I think it's after X number of like rampages, I think that the arena actually shrinks.
Some of them do, yeah. Some of them change.
What's it called again? Clash? Is it Clash mode?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's called Clash mode.
I saw.
I think the arena shrinks a bit more, and obviously that means the play area is a lot smaller, so you will be bumping into people more often. And it can speed up the game, but it can also still slow it down.
Either way, it's a cool progression to
like, there's a lot to get your head around. There's a lot of upgrading and stuff during the game, but it's still, I say surprisingly, a brilliantly balanced game.
Well, that's one of the things that's worth talking about, because it is free to play. There is a microtransaction model, but I don't think that it's aggressive.
It's not intrusive at all.
No, and it's like you sort of play, I don't know, maybe about 6 to 8-ish matches, and you'll have enough gold coins to go buy another character. Because the only thing that you don't get in the free to play version is the characters. All the levels are there, all the powers are there for the characters that are there, and the only sort of impetus to get like the full game is to flesh out the roster. Which is the selling point of the game. Every character is incredibly well varied and all that kind of thing. We'll get onto some of our fan favorites in a bit. There's a snowman who's really, really cool, but at the same time, it's a very like meaty package that Motiga are throwing out for free, sort of just hoping that you guys are going to end up, spending more money on unlocking the full roster.
Yeah, I mean, as a free to play, like you should not be frightened of the fact that it's called a free to play, because it's free to play, but it's not free to play.
It's one of those,
it's not the evil corporation trying to steal your money free to play.
It's one of the best implementations of a free to play model in quite some time. Like it's the kind of thing where you could just play for free and you wouldn't even need the extra stuff. You can totally just have fun with the characters that are there. Obviously Motiga would like you to spend a little bit more, but you'll see how you go. So let's talk about characters, because the biggest selling point for this is the character design. It is the art aesthetic, and they look gorgeous. I mean,
none of them are essentially like rehashed equivalents of other characters. I mean, there are still some you can draw parallels to. But you can do that in any game at all. But there's no character that sort of comes up and you think, oh look, that's just that from a different game. It's reskin. They are all brilliantly unique.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, you can draw some comparisons between like HK and Bastion, or you can draw some comparisons to like characters like Zenyatta from Overwatch. Like, there's like a mage-looking character who's a little bit similar.
Yeah.
But you don't feel that in the moment-to-moment gameplay. Like, you've got guys like Lord Knossos, who's this giant buffalo tribal warrior thing.
Throws spears
everywhere.
And stuff.
There's like an owl ninja called like Taito the Swift. There's like there's a little cute little snowman dude called like Poco, who's just great. He needs to be a plushie. Like, why isn't he everywhere?
That's what we're gonna get. We're gonna get so many plushies.
I hope so. He's lush.
So Scott's desk is going to be covered in plushies.
If you spend some time in the main menu, you can browse through like their lore and their history and get a feel for their skills.
You don't have to wait out to see how they work. You can. There is like a training mode where you can just spawn into like a training map just by yourself, and you can try out all of the characters.
Even in free to play.
But you can't play. Yeah, even in free to play. But you can't take the locked characters online.
No, that's the thing.
That's one of the things that I wish that I could do is like you could pay like a little bit, like you could pay like 1,000 coins, for example, and you can take them on to
like a temporary thing.
One or two matches would be great, but you can still find out exactly what they all do. There's nothing that is behind a wall that you cannot see. Everything you can see. You just can't get it yet. But the best thing about it is, because we've said obviously it has got microtransactions, but you can still unlock everything by progression. So it still feels like an old school game.
Yeah.
You don't get everything handed to you, which a lot of people want. They don't want everything handed to them.
And in terms of like,
also buy them, but that's just the easy way out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I think the amount that they roll out the gold coins does give you enough. Like, the microtransaction is a separate currency.
It's definitely not a grind.
No.
Just standard gameplay will get you quite far.
And there's also like a whole bunch of skins, and you can change like weapon skins as well. And you can buy different creatures, the ones that you put down on the nodes. So the nodes themselves, there are 3 different ways at the beginning that you can buff up a specific node. You'll go up to it and you'll invest some energy in it, which will spawn a creature, and it'll either restore health in a radial way, it'll put walls up, which prevents some of the enemy from approaching, or it'll reveal enemy positions. It's up to you what you want to do. Obviously, you want to work with some team members and kind of divide and conquer so that you're not like repeating the same.
Where stuff should go, like maybe the stuff more towards your own guardian should be healing, and the stuff for the forge would be the walls or the revealing enemies. But then when you get further through the game, you can unlock. There's one that's like it's like a dragon, I think.
There's a drake.
And
it's called Drake.
And it like breathes fire.
Yes.
And kills people, and then there's another one that's like a totem, and I think that just generally just shoots people.
So that's another like kind of push and pull element is the focus that you build up, like your ultimate meter, whatever you want to call it, your super meter, that can be reinvested in these nodes to buff your creatures instead. So rather than pulling off some devastating attack that you might want to use in the moment, you can kind of play the long game and like kind of just move away from wherever the battle's happening, and say you might want to like grow some little, I don't know, wolf-looking dude into like some beastie Cerberus thing.
Buff up your defenses or of course you can stack up on your focus, and you can just unleash it on the enemy when the time arises.
And so in terms of like the way that the vast majority of characters play, it's like, well, the way that they all play, they're all very different. Like some of them are melee, some of them are shooters, some of them are hybrids, some of them are mages. Like I said, I gravitated towards Beckett and the shooters just to get my head around the rest of the mechanics. But that's then led me to playing other sort of mages. I can't think of the dude's name, but there's a little dinosaur with like 4 legs, and he's got a mage staff. He's got like a up close burn ability, and he's got some long range stuff.
Yeah, I do know who you mean. There's you get your standard, you get the flame one, you get the lightning one, you get this, that, the other. But
that's the kind of thing that once you get your head around, like, okay, we're going to make a big push to to defeat the Guardian, or we're going to hang back and build our defense. Then that's when you sort of start branching out and going, okay, I'm not going to spend the whole match just wailing on melee, or I'm not going to spend the whole match just dumping firepower or whatever. Those characters have their uses, but you start to get more confident in how much you can experiment. And again, that's kind of what makes Gigantic kind of really special. But let's talk about the learning curve. I mean, how many matches did you have to have before you felt confident?
I played the tutorial, 2 bot matches, and then I played an online match. And by the end of that, I knew exactly what I was doing.
You picked it up a bit faster than me. I kind of like, I think it's maybe just because the MOBAs in general are such a like thick genre to get stuck into. Not thick double C like the kids say, more genuinely meaty.
Oh dear.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And so, a lot of MOBA games, whenever you watch something like Dota being played, there's just so much going on. Even if you watch Warcraft being played, if you haven't played it, it's like there are so many powers and cooldowns and meters. And so that made me bounce off a little bit as to like, what should I be using? It made me think there was like more to just a basic clash between 2 players than there actually necessarily was. And so I can just like jump in.
There's enough to get your head around in a short amount of time.
Yes.
So you will, if you go into it thinking, oh, there's going to be like all this stuff I have to learn, there isn't.
No.
It's it's not watered down. It's just sort of cut back to the basics.
But
and it's the stuff that works.
Yeah, the cool thing is you can boil all of it down to weaken the enemy Guardian and take them out 3 times. That's the whole thing.
What it is.
If you want to hang back and play it like a shooter, you can just wait for those times, run in, weaken the Guardian. Like, you can totally play it like that. But there is all these extra layers of like tactile, all the different tactics that you can do. You can put down the creatures and spec your own skill tree and all that kind of stuff. I really love that. I like that it has this sense of progression that you kind of build yourself. You kind of like, it's up to you when you want to start fleshing out into these different ways.
It's very inclusive, as a title. You can migrate onto Gigantic, be it coming from a MOBA side of things or a shooter side of things. You will find your way there.
I think that's what's going to help it sort of stand out. Like I said, especially in a genre that just isn't really that well known, especially on consoles.
Yeah, it's like this middle ground that is actually next to something. It's not like they've taken all these ideas and then they've plopped it over here away from everything else that exists, so it gets no traction. They have managed to find a perfect spot. Because obviously, since things like Overwatch and Dota and stuff are getting really, really big, they have managed to find that sort of middle ground that a lot of people can gravitate to. It's the best of both worlds all in one.
And I mean, to talk about sort of the only competition, I mean, the last game that tried this hero-based MOBA thing was Battleborn, which obviously fell flat on its face because it just wasn't Overwatch and it just came at the wrong time. There are a whole contingency of Battleborn fans out there that are like, it's not Overwatch, for God's sake. I know it's not. But that that game ended up getting lumped in with Overwatch and all that kind of hype. This feels like something kind of completely different.
It is completely
obviously
unique.
Aesthetically, you can kind of go, oh, it's similar to Overwatch, but as soon as you jump into a game, which I think people will be encouraged to do because it's free to play, you'll feel that it's not like Overwatch, which even like Paladins, for as well as Paladins plays, feels like another Overwatch clone. This uses the Overwatch inroad and then has so much of its own, mechanics to offer that, it's way more impressive than you think. Personally, I mean, I initially thought it was very hard to get to grips with, but it wasn't off-putting. It was the kind of thing where I was like, right, I can see these mechanics, I know what I need to do, I know what I need to get my head around, and it just took time, which in a way is what a game as tactile as this should be like. It shouldn't push you off.
You sort of go into it thinking there's going to be a lot to get your head around, but in reality, there's not. I think it's just because of where it sits, you'd think, ooh, maybe this could be difficult, but it's not. It's massively inclusive, and the fact that it's free to play is even better because it means anybody can play it.
But that was kind of what I meant. It was just like there are all these potential options for like status buffs and like melee and range and who should I be playing and whatever. But once you get your head, like even if you just jump in and just start getting some kills and just going like, okay, I'm making a difference in this match. That's more than I think a lot of other MOBAs even give you. You kind of immediately feel better.
You've got to try and do everything at once.
And you've just got someone shouting at you because you're not, buffing the right thing. But anyway, we were pretty positive on Gigantic.
I thoroughly enjoyed playing.
There are a lot of extremely furtive ingredients in it, and I think given the right sort of player base and community, this could become something really special. So we'll see how it goes. Let us know in the comments what you think. This has been available on beta for a good few months, but now the full retail version is out. So let us know how you've got on. I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Rich from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll see you soon.